Metro Last Light is a direct sequel to the original game made by... what the fuck? Glory to the Communist Union. What the fuck is all this? Oh, hello comrade. Would you like some shemishki? No! Why the fuck are you in my house? Well, we were on our way to Barbosa Line and got a bit lost. Then we heard mention of our glorious motherland. And so here we are. That's it. Yes, a simple version of situation. Okay? Want to make yourself useful while you're here? Why of course, comrade. Anything to help out my communist brethren. Sure, take a seat here. Just there. There you go. Oh, this is comfy chair. Now, yes, just read this entire script for me. Don't mind that stuff all off to the side. Of course, comrade. Metro Last Light is direct sequel to the original game, based off the original novels by Comrade Dmitri, and you should be aware when starting this game that the canonical ending for the first game and book is that Comrade Artyom purged the paranormal dark ones in a sea of holy hellfire. So if you played the game like a good boy, then your progress and ending isn't going to have an effect on the start of this game, which is a little bit shitty, but what can you do? Another thing to note is that with the Redux version of Last Light, there is some bonus DLC levels that can be accessed through the chapter menu. I'm going to be completely ignoring that and focusing only on the core gaming experience. Just to quickly cut in on my Russian friend over there for the people in the back, the previous issue that I came across in Metro 2033 where the game kind of froze, kept playing and then crashed to the desktop isn't at all present in this game. I didn't have any troubles whatsoever running this game from start to finish. I only had one minor crash once, but after that, the game played without any hassles at all. Back to you, Ivan.
Damn, son!
Good god, this game looks beautiful, much like Sasha from down the street. Very good comrade when it comes to Avlagaya shit. Pretty much everything from first game has been improved from the graphical side of things. All of the textures look much better. The characters, monsters, guns, and other important details. The lighting alone is very nice, as you'd expect, given that the game is about the last light. It's the defining quality of the entire graphical aspect of the game, but that's not to say that the rest of the parts making up the visuals haven't also been improved in some way. The design of their environments as well has also been improved. The stations you visit all have that lived-in feel and their own unique vibe. The Nazi ones are oppressive as hell, and the glorious comrade stations are safe havens. And Venice has a nice character that the other stations lack. There are a few new enemy designs in the game, but they aren't anything really that special. The new human enemies have a few different looks, but there's only so much you can do for outfit design that needs a gas mask of some sort for the design to make sense in the game. For the creature enemies, however, there's about one whole addition to the cast, with the rest already being in the first game. The guns as well have a few new additions, but you can rest easy knowing that all of the weapons still have that practicality of a style design to them, and some of them still give me a fucking boner. Really? Is this true, comrade? Yeah, mate. Why are you looking at me like that? Give me good reason as to why I shouldn't have you thrown into workers' camp. Sure. What? What is this thing? Do you remember the PTRS-41? Yes, his glorious tank-killing weapon. This is its bigger brother. Oh, Zah have mercy. The sound design for the game as well has improved from the first game. There are a few callback tracks from the first game, most notably the Telltale guitar from the opening of 2033. I'd say that the biggest improvement of the sound is the little atmospheric touches throughout the environment, because like Comrade Hellfire has said, the atmosphere is the strongest point of this game. All of the monsters still sound otherworldly and unnatural, and downright fucking terrifying in some parts of the game. most notably the swamp.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
There was more than a few moments in the game that I opted to run straight through a section while trying to remember what all the loot was, just because the noises started scaring the shit out of me. As far as the actual soundtrack goes, there's one track that sounds like it's from an old 80s cop show with its heavy bass guitar. Another track that belongs in a noir film to fit with a cabaret scene. Plus, more than a few versions of the classic acoustic guitar that I'd say is the defining part of the series' composition. The battle themes by and large aren't anything too special, up until the one track that goes full metal, and it's lovely. That good old-fashioned righteous shit. And as far as I could tell listening back to the soundtrack and the gameplay, there's only one real ambient track for when you're sneaking through the levels. Basically, the soundtrack gets a solid C+. The sound of the guns as well stays great from the last game, and the new weapons don't dampen the quality of this aspect at all. The new big gun that gives me a hard-on has a nice BOOM whenever I want an enemy to disappear. Even the new automatic shotgun has a nice repeating sound that makes me want to charge into an enemy base and slaughter everything inside. The voice acting for characters as well has been improved, but there's still a few ham attempts, particularly Pavel being a more noticeable example of what a bad Russian accent sounds like, kinda like the one in this video. What is this part about, comrade? Is something funny about my voice? Just keep reading the script. Did you like gunplay from last game? Good, because it's exactly the same. Except there's not quite as many Nazis to kill this. Nazis! Fascist dogs! Where are they? Steady, Ivan. There's no Nazis here. It's just part of the script. Lies! The fascist scum are everywhere. I must eradicate them from the earth. Ivan, it's just a bit in the script. I'm not serious. Comrades Commissar, sir. We have received word of Nazis seizing control of our allies. What? They got to Britain? No, Comrade Commissar. They've left the pond. Tsar protect us. Rally the troops, comrade. We'll have to liberate those Americans from the heel of fascism. Forward, comrades. To glory! But the video... Where were we then?
Oh, let me tell you a story about a boy named Artyom.
The story to this game is a direct continuation from the last game, and it completely throws away the illusion of choice that you had at the end of 2033. So, whether you like it or not, you committed genocide at the end of that game, which is a little bit shitty. Also, all the same difficulties from the first game are here, and I've already explained those in that video, so I'm not going to do it again here. As for the raw, bare bones story that you play through, it begins with you being woken up in D6 by Khan, the wisest of old men that no one wants to listen to. Once you get a quick tour of part of D6 and have a quick tutorial, as well as picking out your starting weapons, you meet up with Miller and Khan to tell him that maybe Khan saw a Dark One back in the Botanical Gardens, that little place you bombed at the end of last game. A place that Artyom is somehow tied to from before the war as he went there with his mother, because, you know, plot needs to happen. Miller pairs you up with Anna and sends you off to kill the Dark One. This doesn't go so well. Aside from Anna telling you not to stare at her ass, even though you're climbing up a ladder after her, and I've never met someone who climbs a ladder without looking up, just before you finally capture the last Dark One, it knocks you out and you get captured by the Nazis, because plot needs to happen here, people. Once you come to under the guard of the Nazis, you meet Pavel, who's kinda fucking annoying. Once you jump the guards, you both jump down a garbage chute, and Pavel manages, somehow, to pull an AK out of his ass.
somehow, although that is a very impressive and fancy prison skill he's learnt there. You sneak around for a bit and you're given a quick rundown of the stealth mechanics that are much more the focus in this game compared to 2033. After you sleuth in the shadows for a bit and kill/knock out some enemies, you get to see the game flexing its "this is how many people we can fit on a screen at once" muscles, before making a hasty exit from the filthy centralist compound. Upon crashing your trusty iron steed, Pavel has the ingenious idea to split up, at which point he is subsequently captured by the Nazis again, and you're given some freedom to roam around an entire complex of enemies, either using your newfound stealth skills or just murdering everyone in sight, like a boring person would. Keeping in mind that there's that little tracked stat of morality, you should try and sneak through the game and knock out everyone just to make sure you get the best ending possible. Once you punch enough Nazis to make the lefties say, "Ease up there, comrade," you find Pavel once again, slowly being hung for his lack of self-preservation, until you come along to save him, of course. Once you've escaped, you enter into some dark caverns with Pavel and reunite with those bloody spider bugs. Fuck these things. Conveniently, the best way to kill these things is to just look at them with a light for a bit, and they offer themselves up to the blood god for sacrifice. Burning your way through the spawns of Satan, you arrive at the surface of the world. And Moscow looks a lot better than in the first game. There's a lot less snow this time around, and it looks like a much nicer place. Spoilers, it isn't. Upon moving through the city for a short while, you enter an airplane where you have a trippy as fuck flashback to the moment the plane crashed during the apocalypse. One in which the immediate aftermath, Pavel forgets exactly what the gas mask was designed for, which is keeping him alive. Not that it would have been a great loss to anyone, really. Going through a few more legions of both demons and watchmen, you finally make it to theater, where you're greeted by a pair of flamethrowers, burning the monsters you were just fighting to a crisp. Once you actually make it into theater, you can go through the normal motions as you would with any other halfway station, mainly buying supplies and ammo as well as swapping out whichever weapon you're not using anymore. There's also a dope shadow puppet show that's also a little bit sad with how little the children understand the world. You then go to the actual theatre and view a very nice lengthy performance complete with all the bouncy physics you'd ever want in a game. Once you walk through the dressing room with Pavel, you sit down for a drink, and an odd occurrence happens. Artyom actually gets drunk, despite being immune to alcohol as stated in the first game. Spoilers, Pavel just sold you out to his Red Army superiors, because you're a ranger, and therefore have information on D6, which the Reds want because plot. As a side note, this is a really stupid moment for Pavel as a character. It's like his thought process was, let's just betray someone who's walked through 2 Nazi compounds unharmed, killed his fair share of monsters alongside me, and also saved my life on 3 separate occasions. Yeah, this is a great idea. This probably won't get me killed later on. You awaken in the Red prison with a totally not evil man interrogating you, just when an equally not evil man with the wrong moustache for a commie walks into the room. You have a flashback for both the sake of the plot and Artyom's backstory, which happened earlier in the game as well, by the way. Once you come to, you're freed by the Red leader's son. No, I can't remember his name. This is the first and only time he shows up in the story, so he's a plot element and nothing more. You crawl through some vents and crawl through the length and breadth of the Red compound, seeing a few of their endgame plans in motion. At which point, after much knocking out and crawling around, you reunite with Andrew the blacksmith from the first game, who's wielding a bigger gun than his frame would indicate he's able to hold. This is where you meet the best damn railcar in the game, and the spider-bug's worst nightmare, due to all the nice bright bulbs the thing is stacked with. You drive through some tunnels and push a train cart, with some optional stops along the way for the sake of horrific visions and loot, before you crash the railcar. Because this is Artyom, and of course, if he's in a railcar, it's going to crash. Once you make sure that the glorious beast of steel is still running, you plow through a barrier and stumble upon a refugee convoy. They've sent all their able-bodied men up ahead to search for bandits. They found some. You proceed to work your way through the new stock of villainy, and mistakenly save a guy, one that clears the path for you granted, but he's also really intent on letting you know that there's someone still there. Kicking the shit out of a few more enemies, you're let into another area that has a very obvious entrance to it. Once that's done, you hop back into your rail car and speed along until Artyom crashes it, again, for the final time, as the glorious steed that has had your back up to now finally gets sick of Artyom's shit and quits on the spot. You ring a bell in a very large subway station here and wait for the fisherman to make his way to you, fighting off a few monsters in the process, but if you play this part right, it's more of a standing still shooting gallery than anything else. Once the fisherman picks you up, you travel along the water channels up until you meet the new monster enemy, prawns, or shrimps. The mutation wasn't a gentle one. You eventually bomb the fuck out of the tasty yet ugly bastards and make it to Venice, a hive of thugs and whores alike, and actually a nicely designed city floating on top of the metro water. There's a lot of character in this place if you wander around. Also, Pavel's here for the sake of some plot, I suppose. There's a quick shooting gallery here where you can reduce the vermin populace by a considerable margin to win both a teddy and a lot of bullets to buy more bullets with. It makes sense in the game, trust me. You find Pavel in the strip joint enjoying himself and yelling at his men, at which point a working girl spoils your fun and offers some fun of her own for you to enjoy yourself with, if you like some pixelated tits over real tits. After taking the lady up on her offer, or turning her down, you find your way into the storehouse and run through a few wannabe gangsters and find Pavel, where Artyom fucks up and drops his guard for the sake of a distraction, and Pavel escapes, again. At which point the NPC takes you back up to the surface and into the swamp. Fuck this level. Here's how you beat it. Go to the plane first, don't do anything once you're attacked by the king prawn while you're in there, then go straight across to the gas station and pick up the fuel. Go to the boat point, hit the button, flee to this pile of rubble, run back to the boat and get across the water. Done. I just saved you a lot of pain on this level. The next level, however, is a bit better and has a very nice atmosphere to it. Playing this level on Ranger would probably make me quit the game just to make sure my heart wasn't going to explode on me. This is the level, by the way, where you're reunited with some of your Ranger brethren. This is also where you kill the King Prawn, which is a shitty boss fight. Just run from it and plant a few claymores behind you, plant a few rounds into its back, and you're done. You meet with Anna again at a few extra ranges, right before the traitor Lesnitsky, mentioned at the start of the game, shows up to crash the party. You chase the bastard into the underground catacombs, where apparently a few people died after being buried alive or something. Once you actually get underground and find all the lovely monsters down there, you get to run straight through into a boss fight, after sneaking around for a bit and finding a very big shotgun to kill monsters with. The boss, however, is about as simple as most big, bulky, charging enemies normally are. Just dodge the charge and make it run into the pillars and you'll be fine. Then suddenly the tunnel collapses and you're plunged into a shit ton of water, but you don't drown. Because this is a video game plot, son. Logic don't belong here. Once you survive the torrent of water, you crawl through a vent to listen to some plot concerning Anna and stuff, and walk right into a pandemic cleansing. And it's a bit full on, to put it mildly. You know, people being burnt alive, mass execution, the slaughter of anyone with a slight hint of having the infection. But that's all fine, because you find and rescue Anna, either by sacrificing yourself and taking your mask off, or by having Anna thrown into you so hard that your mask cracks, and you haul yourself up into a friendly station, literally just up the escalators from the genocide that you just walked through. Once you make it into the containment zone and have some time alone with Anna, and because you're the spunky Chad as fuck slayer of both men and monsters, Anna wants that strong child juice inside of her, and guess what? You don't get a fucking choice. Too bad if you wanted a blonde Russian, lads and ladies, you'll have to be okay with a brunette. Truly, a crime for the ages. After having a quick bang sesh, you remember that there's a game to be had here, and link up with Khan, bro of bros. And he offers to take you to the River of Fate, probably not knowing that you just kinda sealed your fate with Anna. But you decide to go with the reject mystic anyway, because you still need to kick the shit out of Pavel and find that bloody dark one. You know, that little thing the entire game was about. Don't worry, I'd actually forgotten at this point too. You fight a few monsters and do a bit of climbing before you finally get into the general area of the River of Fate. And boy, some spooky shit goes down before you get to the end of the level. There's also this one bit that genuinely scared me stiff. Once you jump into the river, you go on a bit of a trip through time, but you come back knowing what the next step of the game is going to entail. It's time to hijack a train, boy! No. Not that game. Fuck that game. You hop on a rail car. Don't worry, Khan is driving so you know that it's not going to crash at the first sharp bend. after you go through a pretty okay chase sequence to catch up to the train, and upon jumping onto the train you get another pretty okay shooting gallery, at the end of which you finally find the Dark One, who gives you a little pat on the head and causes a flashback, just to show that Artyom was adopted just like we all knew, cause who the fuck wants the psycho for a child? Once you knock out the rebellious little Dark One, you take him to the surface because apparently the things that have mutated to the top of the post-apocalyptic food chain have adapted to breathe the toxic air, and fresh, clean air doesn't agree with their insides. This is the largest part of the game that you get to spend outside, and it's fully used by the game, showing off one hell of a vista while still retaining that signature Metro feel with both the atmosphere and weather effects a key part of the level on the entirety of the bridge. The Dark One also learns a little bit more about humans by getting its own clothes, plus also letting you use its sight for a few bits here and there. Upon crossing the large bridge, you enter a train depot, and I hope to God your stealth skills are on point, because these Reds are jumpy and looking to pound some of that Artyom ass. Plus, this is where you get a very, very big sniper rifle that is just yes. Once you work your way through several groups of highly trained soldiers, you find the traitor Liznitsky and give him a good old mind-fucking, at which point you can either kill or spare him for all the trouble he's put you through. It's really up to you. The next level is City of Phantoms. There's some spooky shit in here. Like, this is a part of the game where a bit of the effort for the world building went. It also makes you think about the larger themes at play that were presented all the way back in the first game. There's a few enemies here and there, but this level is largely for the world building and the atmosphere and nothing else. Upon clearing that spooky neighborhood, you enter the Red Square and see some shit that's straight out of an indie horror film, shortly after which you find Pavel, slaughter all of his men before finally working your way up to him, where you and the Dark One give him a little mindfuck as well. You decide whether you kill Pavel or let him live. I'm not here to judge you for your decisions. You monsters. Oh, by the way, you learned a bit more of the Reds' overall plan to storm D6 with your series of mindfuckery. Anyway, this is where you make it into the Botanical Gardens. Again, this time there's a bit more life afoot than the last time, particularly the Big Mama, which is basically like the boss from the Catacombs, but you have to shoot the glowing spot to beat her because this is a video game. And immediately after the boss fight, you have an actually moral, impactful choice to make. One that can be made very quickly, but one that actually tugged at my heart a little and made me pause for a moment. Shortly after you make that not so difficult choice, you finally meet back up with Miller and Khan to deliver the report he's been waiting on for the entire game. So you just give them both a mindfuck with the little Dark One, where it finds out that the rest of his kin is locked away in D6, sleeping. Once you get that done, you arrive at Polis, where the peace talks are taking place, at which point you expose the Red leaders and all of his shady past. The talk breaks down and you run to D6 to defend it while the Dark One heads out to find his people. This is the biggest set piece of the game and it's pretty fun. Upon killing enough enemies to make the winter wall look like a roadside accident, the Reds ram their war train that you saw into D6. Beaten and broken and on your last legs, Miller tells you to flip the switch to blow up D6, which would be a fucking large explosion just quietly, enough to probably wipe out most of the metro. Just like the last game, you can get one of two endings. Either you were a boring, mindless drone and you flip the switch and send the entire Spartan Order and the Reds straight to hell, or you were a good boy and get saved by the Dark Ones who kindly kill the Reds for you so Artyom can live a life with Anna and his child. That's not a spoiler, fuck you. So that's the beat for beat, here's what happens in the game's story rundown. But is there a deeper message, and what is it? Well, you could argue that this game is about Artyom searching for acceptance, seeing as he's the only person shown to have the natural ability to communicate with the Dark Ones. He's a bit of an outcast. The Spartans make a show of making him one of theirs, but with the way that Anna speaks to him the first time they meet, she's probably not the only one who feels that way. Again, with Pavel, he doubles down on the making a show part, just to betray Artyom for his own people. The only one I dare say accepts Artyom is the little Dark One, or maybe Khan, but the Dark One only accepts him after it does its mind meld. After that, it follows you for the rest of the game. A stronger argument for the subtext of the game, though, is learning how to forgive someone. Take Anna, for example. When you first meet her, she's very cold to you, but when you reunite, she's accepting of you, which leads you to care for her and go through an infected station to save her, or to bone her. Pavel befriends you early in the game and after his betrayal, he continually says that it's all for his people, nothing personal. It's just business and all those sort of lines. But you have the option to spare him, the consequences of which show the Dark One that even your most hated enemy can still be forgiven. Betrayal and forgiveness are two of the big parts of this game, and they're equally important in life. To know betrayal is to know a certain type of guttural hate for someone or something. To know forgiveness is to have the mental strength to put a person's wrongs behind you and cultivate a healthy relationship with them. That lovely bit of poetry being said, some people don't deserve forgiveness, but this is a game, so an idealistic world is always obtainable. Well shit, we're finally here. That took a while. To round up the game, it's both a graphical and mechanical improvement over the original. The gunplay remains the same and the stealth gets a much more present role in this game. Hell, it's in the title. The graphics are far and away more up to date than 2033, and even puts very recent games to shame with its lighting and atmosphere. The soundtrack is still great, even with the odd track here and there just to throw you off, and the narrative is a great continuation from the first game, even if it doesn't take into account which ending you got in the original title. It's a basic enough story that you don't need a bachelor's degree to play it, but it has enough themes going on for you to peer at it under a microscope just to learn a little bit more. I give it a bullet lighter out of 10 with a strong recommend. You can get this game on pretty much every console, but if you're part of the superior race, you can get it from GOG or Steam. Links down there as usual. That's it for this video, chums. I'm working on another one, so don't worry, but my lease is almost up, so I have to start looking for a new home with the girlfriend. It's that real life shit. Here's some people you can watch in the meantime. I have been the infamous Sir Hellfire, you have been my lovely brethren. Metro Last Light is super good. I'll see you all in the next one. And remember, stay Chekki Brekki.